All right, it's showtime. I'll hit the button. All righty, here we are once again on a Tuesday evening. Who all we got here tonight? Let me get here. Raymond is here. Northeast Vermonter, Cynthia Wesley. Nice to see you guys. Corey Clark, Dan. Let's see here. Billy Lee, good to see you. Randy Duffy. Prairie Queen, good to see you. Robin, yes, you got your wrench. Just be glad I don't haul off and smack you on with it now. Let's see here. Bookworm, Honey J. Badger. Corey found himself a DSR fish fryer with a lid. That's always a good thing to find. And I got some cool stuff this week. Got some neat stuff in the mail. Since I just mentioned Corey Clark, he sent me the ultimate cast iron cookbook. There's some pretty cool recipes in here. I was flipping through it. I like the format. It's got a nice, easy to find recipes. You turn the page and there's the name of it right there in big letters for old blind people. You can get yourself some blistered shishito peppers. There's a lot of neat stuff in here. Korean chicken thighs with sweet potato vermicelli. That sounds good. I'll have to give some of these a try here pretty soon. But thank you much, Corey. I guess that actually came last Tuesday, but I didn't go down and get my mail till the next morning because it usually doesn't get here till about 6 in the evening anyhow. But I got that. Something else I got in the mail was from Randy Duffy. He sent me a couple of pans. Sent me a unmarked Wagner Ware chef skillet. Chef skillet there, made in USA, 9-inch. Now, the chef skillets, the square skillets, and the divided breakfast skillets that Wagner made had this style of a handle on them. I think maybe some of the greaseless fryers too, later on, the fat-free fryers. They're kind of curved like that, curved up a little bit. They got a little thumb print for your thumb. Hold it like that. And they got that squared off end. Kind of neat looking handle. I kind of like those. I like that style. But got a chef skillet. And I finally have a Canadian skillet. And this one's a twofer. That's a Findlay, Carleton Place, Ontario, number 5. But if you look close, not sure how well you can see that, there's ghost marks of a smart Brockton or Brockville, Brockville, I think it is, Ontario. You can see them there. The lights got her a little better, which is really cool. So that's a 2-for-1 Canadian skillet. B&U Acres sent me the one paddle for a smart waffle iron, but this is the first Canadian skillet I've got. So that's what a Findlay, or well, maybe a smart style handle looks like. It's kind of a cool, kind of a distinctive looking handle. You'd probably be able to spot that fairly easy. But yeah, got a Canadian skillet finally. So thank you very much, Randy. That was too kind of you, and thank you much, Corey, for sending that. I also bought something off the Goodwill site. This is a Levco Ware skillet. It's made in Japan. Let me get to the camera there. There you can see it. Japan. I've seen a couple of different Japanese skillets that have this design on the back that didn't have the Levco Ware name. And that's actually a really nice skillet. It's real nice and smooth inside. It's well finished on the outside. Can't wait to get that one cleaned up and try it out. But gave $10 for that. There's only $12 shipping, so $22 altogether. It was definitely worth $22 for it. I was the only one who bid, which was kind of nice. But yeah, it's a nice skillet. Looking forward to playing around with that. Let's see. Set him down here. And something else I'm just tickled to death with. This. Huh? Ain't that impressive? Not impressed? This was 2 pieces. We did some, I had to do a little bit of cast iron welding at work. We broke a handle off a duplex strainer. It's a 2-part strainer for a fuel oil line. And you can switch it between one side and the other, use one side and clean out the other side without having to shut the oil off. And it has a big cast iron handle on it, and that broke. Well, I've had some high nickel MIG welding wire for welding cast iron for a while, but I haven't really had much of a chance to use it. So I took it into work, set up the welder there with it, and used that to weld up that cast iron handle, and it worked out good. So I wanted to get a little practice in on welding cast iron skillets. I got a couple, 3 of these. These are cheap little fajita pans. These are real common at Goodwills. You can usually get them for $1, $2 a piece. Them and them little cookie pans, you see tons of those dirt cheap. So I broke it in half. First I kind of cut down the side with a cutoff wheel on a grinder, and then snapped it off. And the first one I welded, I broke it off this way, which would be crossways on the pan, and did like I would normally do when I weld something back together. Put a couple of tack welds in on each side and then start welding across. Turns out that does not work very well with cast iron. It ended up breaking it around the tack welds on the opposite side from where I was welding. So I broke it again and just welded it across without tacking it. It worked out real nice. Put it in a vise after I had it done and snapped it off to see if it was going to break next to the weld, and it didn't. Broke way away from it, which is really good. So that shows me that that's definitely onto something with the welding. Got a bunch more experiments I want to do before I actually make a video on repairing cast iron, but I won't be able to get around to doing that until probably May, so I can do it out on my porch. Right now there's 1.5 feet of snow and ice on my deck, so I ain't going to be doing any welding out there for a while, especially with cast iron where you have to let it cool down slowly. The other thing I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to finally break down and get a tank of gas from a MIG welder. With a MIG welder, MIG means metal inert gas. It's wire feed where it continuously feeds wire into the weld, and the wire acts as the electrode. Creates an arc between the end of the wire and the base metal that you're welding. Melts the metal, melts the electrode, blends them all together, and there's an inert gas envelope around it. There's a little pressurized tank, and you blow the gas through it. Or you can use what's called flux core wire, which is a hollow wire that has flux inside of it, and as the arc burns, it burns that flux and it produces its own gas rather than having a separate tank of gas. The problem is with flux core is it's a bit violent. It's tougher to control because as the arc is burning and it's burning out that gas, it's coming from inside the wire, and you get a lot more spatter, and it's hard to get a smooth weld, and it's a little harder to control. So I'm going to have to get some solid core wire and a tank of gas for my welder and use that. But like I said, there's a bunch more experiments I want to do, different things that I need to try out before I try them out on some of the some actual skillets and things like that. But once I get it perfected, I'll show you how it can be done. Not sure if you can quite see it in the light there. The weld is a little bit different color. I mean, it matches pretty good, but it's a little bit different color than the metal around it. It's more of a bluish silver than just the bright white. Oh, it shows really good on that light. I wasn't too worried about getting it, perfectly matched. I'm just screwing around trying to get it to weld first. But I'm going to have to practice a bit more, see if I can make it a little bit more invisible of a repair. But I'm definitely pleased with the results of that little welding experiment with cast iron. Because cast iron is notoriously tricky and difficult to weld sometimes. And there's a lot of different kinds of cast iron. Some can't be welded at all. Like a white cast iron is just too brittle. I mean, there's no way that you can weld it. It'll just crack around it no matter what you do. But a lot of the gray iron, which is what most cast iron cookware is made out of. You can weld it if things go well. But like I said, that'll probably be, late spring, early summer before I can actually film the video. But in the meantime, I'll get the processes and techniques worked out. There's a couple of different techniques for welding cast iron. And the one I use for this seems to work pretty well, so I'll work with it some more. I'm no expert welder. I'm fairly good at it, but I'm not a professional or anything like that. And I'm fairly out of practice. I finally got to do a bit more welding the last few months, so I'm getting better at it again, but we'll see how that goes. But anyway, tonight we're gonna go have a look at the Goodwill auction site and see what the prices are going for some of the newer cast iron, like Stargazer, Finex, Field Company, and things like that, because they're out there. Like I said, the only one I have right now is I have a Smithy iron chef skillet, and that's the only one. And I haven't had a chance to get that cleaned up and try it out yet, but I'm looking forward to that, just to try it out. I mean, it looks like a pretty decent pan. We'll see how it actually works. Stacking dimes on the weld. Yeah, kind of like that, but it's a little bit different with this stuff. It's a high nickel wire. It's 55% nickel, and the rest is iron and a little bit of manganese in it, I think. It's not a mild steel, because the nickel alloy, when it solidifies from liquid, doesn't shrink very much. It stays pretty much the same size, where a mild steel shrinks quite a bit, and that's why it cracks when you're trying to weld cast iron, because it shrinks too much and it stretches the cast iron around the weld, and it'll crack right along either side of the weld, and because you can't stretch cast iron very far. Did you hear this right? Corey got a fish fryer with a lid. Yes, he did. Anyhow, I'm going to, let's see, where's my share button here? Settings, stop cam, mic, present. I think that's what they're calling it now. Yeah, share screen. Select that. There we go. Allow. Okay, and I'll embiggen that. The first one I found, some of these I've had up here for quite a while. It's been, about a month and a half since I did one of these videos. Month and a half, 2 months, I think. But first one off is a Smithy. Oh, I gotta go down this screen. Here we go. That's a Smithy 10-inch chef skillet. That's sold for $107. Smithy's got the little quail on the handle. That's their trademark. They're pretty, like I said, they look like pretty decent skillets. They're machined nice inside. Get that big. That one's a little bit rusty. It's a number 10. I think mine's a number 8, a little smaller. Maybe it is a 10. But this one went for $107, and brand new, this goes for $140, I think. I got a little note on the bottom of the thing to do notes. Yeah, $140 new. So they didn't do too overly bad on the price for that. You got to remember there's going to be shipping on these too, and depending on where you are, it could be anywhere from $12 to $30. But if you figure kind of $20 average, just to give you something to do, $125, it's not really a huge savings over just buying a new one, and you're gonna have to clean that up. So, you would probably be better off, as long as you didn't have to pay shipping on it, just getting a new one somewhere. This one here, that's a letter skillet, like the one I showed you last week that I have. And you kind of see one thing I don't remember if I really showed you. The handles on the letter skillets have been kind of ground down a little bit, and they're all like that. I'll show you here. Let me get back on the right screen. I confuse myself sometimes. The underside of the handle on all the ones I've seen looks like it's been ground down from something else. It used to be more of a rib underneath there. And you can see where it's been ground down on the pattern or whatever skillet they use for a pattern. And that's kind of a thing on all the ones that I've seen. Anyway, you'll probably be seeing that again later. But $100 for that. And that seems to be about what they're going for. Usually 80 to $100 is what I see them selling for. So that's pretty common. That one is a DX or CX, XC. Let's see if it got closer. Yeah, it's a C. I've seen a bunch of different initials, MJ, DX. The one I've got is, what is that? FC is the one I have. What the initials are, I don't really know, but they are. So that's kind of a neat thing. And they're a known unknown. They're initial skillets is what everybody calls them. But I don't know exactly who made them or where. This thing here was kind of neat. I bid on this. It actually was up for sale twice. The first time I didn't catch the end of the auction, and somebody bought it, and they must not have paid for it because it got relisted. It's listed as a 16-inch cast iron walk, but this thing is neither cast iron nor a walk. And I had to pay $25 for it just because it's something interesting. This is actually probably wrought iron, and it's riveted. It looks like it's handmade by a blacksmith somewhere. And my guess is this would be a sugar pan. It'd be for boiling down sorghum to make molasses, cane juice to make sugar, maple syrup, something like that. You can see it's been used quite a bit. It's a bit rusty, a bit crusty, but it'd probably clean up fairly good. But you can see that it's cut out of sheet metal and all riveted together. It's just kind of a neat thing. So, it's an interesting sort of an item. Like I said, I'd have paid $25 for it, but I think it went for 40, 42. That's a bit more than I would pay for it. But like I said, it is kind of an interesting thing. It'd be something worthwhile if it would have went a little cheaper. Just to say I've got one. Closed items. I just got one of the nitrided pans from Lehman's. Smooth interior, about the size of a number 7 National. Oh, that sounds cool. Does brazing work any better? Brazing is a bit easier. You're a lot less likely to end up cracking it, but you're going to end up with a fairly big gobby looking repair on it, and it's not as strong as welding it. So for some things, it would definitely work. You could braze a handle back on. Even if you do a fairly neat job, it's going to be a real obvious repair. But it does work a little, it's easier to do. But like I said, it's not nearly as strong of a repair as welded would be. Current here with the. I have a Dutch oven with a original lid, USA number 8, 10 5/8 inches. What brand is it? That sounds like a BSR Century Series. And usually Dutch ovens go for around 40 to 50, 35 to $50 for most of the Lodge, unmarked Wagner, BSR, ones like that. Marked Wagner, Griswold, other brand names that have an obvious brand name on them, go for quite a bit, go for more, sometimes quite a bit. There's a couple in here that I was wanted to show. You'll see them in a little bit. Yeah, someone's going to be disappointed when they get it and find out it's not cast iron. Yeah, but it's pretty obviously not cast iron. So hopefully they didn't get too burned. That might be why the first bidder didn't pay for it. So, Sanudo, nice to see you. Shannon O, good to see you too. Get back caught up here. All right, this is a whole pile of skillets. You got 4 of them. There's 2 Field Company and 2 Stargazer ones. There's a 10-inch and a 12-inch Stargazer. It's a little hard to see, but I think these are both number 6 Field Company skillets. And they only give you 2 pictures. That's a picture of the back. There's pictures of the front. They look to be, real nice shape. Don't need to do any real restoration on them. So that wouldn't be too much of a problem. Let me check my note there and see what I had for prices. The 10.5-inch Stargazer goes for $115. The 12-inch is $145. And if they're both 6-inch Field Companies, those go for $115. So $277 for all of them. It's not too bad of a price. They came out ahead because otherwise it would have been $400, $430. Getting $450 new for not a little more than that. Would have been $450 more or less new for all 4 of them. So you come out ahead pretty good on that deal. A couple other things. These aren't new. This one is an American cookware cast iron. You see them around. Usually you can't see it on this picture, but in the helper handle it says AB&I, which stands for American Brass and Iron. And a lot of them have a design on the back. There's a bunch of different. Some are plain, but this one has, let me get to it. Come on, where are you? There we go. This one has a paddle wheel steamer. There's sailing ships. There's a bunch of different ship series. And they say American cookware on them. These usually go for a fairly decent price. A lot of people are interested, especially in the, the ship ones because, they're pretty cool. Someday I'll come across one at a good price. Let's see, what did that one sell for? I should have looked first. 34, yeah, $35. That's a pretty good price for that. Usually I see them go for 50, 60, 70 in there. And this one, which is this? This is a Belknap. Last week we kind of talked about companies making pans for other companies, contract work. This is get over here to where you can see the name on the back. Belknap. Belknap was a big hardware distributor based out of Kentucky, and they had skillets made for them with their Belknap name on them. Some of them were made from early Victor patterns, so they were probably made by Griswold. But this one is a 1-notch Lodge skillet. You can see it's got the 1 notch, and it's got a little molders mark down there. And if you flip it over, a little better picture, you can really see the molders mark a Y down there and the 1 notch on it. So this was made by Lodge, but you can see it's got the raised 8 on the handle, like a lot of the early 1 notch and no notch Lodges had. So that was pretty certainly one made by Lodge. Yeah, the 15-inch AB&I clipper ship. See on eBay at a great price, but I got too many. Yeah, you do kind of get buried in some of the things. But yeah, I mean, they're a fairly collectible one. A lot of people are interested in. They usually go for pretty good prices. I was kind of surprised that one only went for $35. I was expecting it to go for closer to $60. Belknap, what year were they made? That's a 1-notch Lodge, so that was probably made in the early 1930s. And I'm not exactly sure when they were in business. They might still be. But like I said, some of the older ones were made from early Griswold Victor patterns. So they were probably, they were making these, probably from 1900 up into the 40s, I would guess. But this particular one would have been, early 1930s. I picked up a waffle iron for $250. That's a hell of a good price. Usually, if it's just the waffle iron itself, a Griswold number 8, 1908 one like that, they usually go for around $100. For 75 to $100 for just the waffle iron. If it has a base, they usually go for around 150. Let me see here. To get back. Do that. That's the Belknap. This one here is another new company. This is Burrow Furnace. There's a video on YouTube I watched a few years ago about Burrow Furnace, and it was kind of a mom and pop. It was a husband and wife team that were making these. They have a small company. It's kind of expensive. This one was $112. It's a fairly modern design, and they do some of their own enamel work. And if you search on YouTube, if you look for Burrow Furnace cast iron on YouTube, you probably find the video. It's pretty interesting, watching these two folks making cast iron. But like I said, they make more of a modern design, and it's fairly decent iron. It's a little bit rough on the outside. It's not super smooth, but it is really good quality cast iron. There's the inside of the lid. It's a bit smoother than your average Lodge, but it's not really super machined on the inside. I think they're in upstate New York, if I remember right. But this one went for, I got to remember to read off the price before I click on it, so I don't have to go back. This one sold for $112, but it goes for 220 new. So they did real good on that one. This one here is a butter pat that sold for 120, and it goes for 225 new. Butter pat names their cast iron. This is an Eric. It's a two-handled skillet baking dish kind of thing. Like I said, that goes for $220 new. Butter pats are real thin, real light. Like I said, I don't really know much. I don't have any of these, so I can't give you a real good critique on them. But they're pretty decent pans by all report. And that's the back of it. It's like I said, it's a large skillet baking dish type of thing. And they name them, this is called Eric, and they have women's names for their skillets, different sizes of skillets. No base, knowing Goodwill might still be in the back. Yeah, it could be. It might be worth going back and asking them if they have, have a cast iron ring thing in the back. Did really good on your Wagner waffle iron, no base. You can cook on it as it came complete. Yeah, you can usually just lay them right on the on the burner of an electric stove. I have an electric stove with the coils, and you can just set the waffle iron right on that, even if you don't have a base or a wood or a gas stove. So it's not too huge of a deal as far as usability goes if you don't have a base, but it's still kind of nice to have a base with them. Belknap made in Kentucky. Yeah, well, Belknap was their hardware distributing company. They didn't actually make their own skillets. That was a Lodge skillet that had their name on it for that contract. And apparently at one time they contracted with Griswold because they were the same patterns as Victor skillets. What's a good, reasonable cast saucepan to get? Well, we're going to get to a few of the couple of Finex ones here. Those are a bit expensive. You can find quite a few Lodge and BSR 1 and 2 quart saucepans out there. They're around. Then there's a lot of more inexpensive enameled ones, usually imported, and those are pretty cheap. So they're definitely out there. And usually the Lodge and BSR ones aren't terribly expensive. They're anywhere from $20 to $50. And like I said, you can usually find, an imported Chinese enameled one for anywhere from 10 to 20 usually. So I wonder why so many. There weren't really a huge amount of them. Sometimes there's kind of a big rush of them, but I've been kind of saving these up for a couple of months. So they don't come up all that frequently. Although there are a few the last week or so, there's been a few more than normal. And I suppose some people buy them, they try it out and decide that, the cast iron just isn't for them. They can't get used to cooking on it. They, can't make the adjustment from aluminum or stainless steel or something like that. Not everybody can get the hang of cooking on cast iron. Let's see here. I did that. Pig face. I'm going to get one of these someday. $100 for the pig face. I've shown you these guys before. They come around every now and then. They're not really uncommon. And they seem usually to go for anywhere from 75 to $100 a piece. I just threw him in there because he's kind of cool. Here's another Field Company. That's a number 9 griddle. They just give you pictures of the front and back, and not all that great to pictures. But that's a Field Company griddle. That's a number 9. I think that's like 11 inches. So, and what was the price on that? I'll remember to do that. I think I got 2 of them right here. Oh yeah, there's one for 93, one for 94. They go for 165 new, so they came out pretty good on that. It's not too bad of a savings on it. Okay, this is a Field Company number 8 skillet and lid. The lids for the Field Companies are expensive. They get $100 a piece for them on the website. The skillet the kit is $185. You get the skillet, you get a brush, you get some seasoning, and a chainmail scrubber. Otherwise, it's $165 for just the skillet, and they paid $221 for the lot. So that's not too bad. The skillet and the lid alone would have been, $265 plus another $20 for the scrub brush, and it had a little leather sleeve for the handle. So that would have been $285, and they paid $221 for the lot, which ain't too bad. It got the original boxes with it. You can see that all came in there, and there's the lid. But yeah, they get $100 a piece for the lids, which is a bit steep for a new lid. Where Finex, their lids are $50 a piece, pretty much regardless of the size. Let's see, I get back up here for a second. Yeah, Goodwill are fascinating. The price of irons brings with very little description versus eBay with full disclosure of condition. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people on the Goodwill site seem to know a little bit more about cast iron than some of the people on the eBay site, as far as the shoppers go. So you recognize things, and you recognize problems a little better, but it can be really frustrating. And once we get towards the end of the list here, I'll show you one of the things that's really frustrating about it. Where eBay, they'll have 45 pictures of something, every possible angle, every possible feature that they could possibly show you. Where a lot of times on the Goodwill site, there'll be 2 or 3 pictures, and you got to try and figure out what's going on from there. Work so long without a base for your waffle iron that you probably ruin everything with it. Yeah, it'd take a little bit of getting used to. Definitely nice to have a base if you're doing it on a wood cook stove, and you got the eye off, because then you kind of need a base for that. But working on a gas or an electric stove, you can get by pretty good without one. And they sell new ones like Rome cookware, and there's a couple other new brands that never had bases with them to begin with. They're just a a hinged waffle iron, they're usually the hinge is pinned together so that the two halves can't separate, and you just throw those right on the burner. So yeah, even the old ones you can get by without a base pretty good. Have either a 12 or 14-inch lid, you don't know where it's coming from. You got to thinking if it would fit your big skillet, but it's bigger your skillet. Yeah, I mean, if you come across a stray lid, especially a big one, if it's a decent price on it, you're best off to pick it up, even if you don't have a skillet that it actually fits. Someday you might, or somebody that will need one that'll fit. So, I almost never pass up a lid if I come across one on its own. I don't have many good stills, mostly antique stores. Wish you had some close. Yeah, I mean, looking at the stores, you don't always find stuff, but it's kind of fun to go. Whenever I get into town, I usually make the rounds. There's a couple of Goodwills and a Savers, so I usually hit them up, and you can find some interesting stuff now and then, but you're not going to find something every time. There's a pan on eBay, so they're trying to sell it for $7,000 because they think their dad was famous. Found if you measure the top of your skillet inside dimension minus an 1/8 inch, it'll fit perfect. Yeah, you got to kind of, that's one of the problems of buying a lid on eBay or a site like this. If they measure it, you're never quite sure how they measured it. So it may or may not quite fit. Okay, let's see here. We did those. Now we got some Finex. This one went for $167. It's a 10-inch. It's got a lid. They sell for $200 for just a skillet or $250 with the lid. So 167 with a lid. Yeah, you're doing all right. Even with the shipping, you're still coming out ahead. And I like the design of Finex. I mean, I like that handle and the brass knob on it. I think it looks cool. But like I said, I don't have one, so I don't really know if they're worth that much money. A lot of the newer ones, you're looking anywhere from, for most skillets, you're looking 150 to $200 for them, and it's just the way it is. I mean, it's not money you're going to have to ever spend again, because a cast iron pan has a 200+ year lifespan on it. So you're not really going to be losing money. I mean, this is something you can give to your grandkids, but you can find most vintage skillets for less money than that. But then again, it's kind of what you want to do, I guess, how you want to spend your money. And eventually I'll find one of these at a halfway decent price just to get it and try it out. You can see that one's been used a bit. It's not too bad a condition overall. Looks like she's been overheated a bit maybe. But don't buy any iron from eBay. Just bought a muffin pan and it tested positive for lead. Well, that's the shit. Somebody probably used it for casting lead ingots at some point. Where's my cursor? Keep confusing myself. And that was a 10-inch, I think, wasn't it? Oh, scrolling down the wrong thing. Get myself all confused. The pig face. Yeah, that was a 10-inch. They make different sizes, and there's a couple of these sauce pots. That one sold for $72, and I think there's one farther down. It's a one quart sauce pot. That one sold for $81, and they go for $150 new, or about $150 new. So they did pretty good on that. And the sauce pots are pretty nice. You got all them corners that you can pour things out of. That's why they made them with the octagonal shape, so you can pour them out of pretty much any direction. It looks like pretty decent. It's a 1 quart sauce pot. I don't know if they make lids for these. I didn't see any on the website. They might be, but they might be sold out or out of stock at the moment. So I don't really know if there's a lid for those, for the Finex sauce pots. Okay, this was a number 8. This went for 184 with the lid. And that's $200. It's 150 for that size skillet and 50 for the lid. So that's really not a very good deal on this one here. Like I said, you can get the same thing brand new for $200 and you're paying 184 plus shipping. You're paying, by the time you ship it, you're paying as much or more than you would for a brand new one. And this one, you can see there's a bit of rust on the lid that needs to be worked on. The skillet itself looks to be pretty decent shape. A little bit of rust on it, but not too bad. So I take that back. That's a number 10. I must have got that one probably, well, no, that'd be the same price as the other one. So yeah, that's not a very good deal on that one. Bass Pro Shop has them. Okay, yeah, I didn't see them on the website. I might have just overlooked them too. I got a few in my crack pile from Goodwill. Also got some great deals too. Yeah, I mean you gotta try and figure out what you're getting from Goodwill sometimes. Like I said, they tend to be pretty skimpy on the pictures, and even when they're not, it seems like they'll always have a picture of every possible thing except the one thing that you really wanted to see. Let's see here. I got to whip some up here. And I have gotten things from Goodwill that got broken shipment. Not very often. Sometimes they're not packaged terribly good. Most of the time, though, they're pretty great. So they have been really good about taking things back or giving you a refund on things that showed up broken. So you can't really complain about it too much. But it's always a pain to get something that you were looking for and have it showing up with a big crack in it or something. So it says number 10 Lodge on top, so it's not really old. Lids are sold separately. Okay. Your pants from the Goodwill site have been good. Got a number 10 Arc logo Wagner and some copper pans and a copper bowl. Also a Simplex kettle. Cool. Yeah, like I said, I've had pretty good luck with them. I mean, even if you get something, anything you got to ship, I mean, it gets so battered in the shipping process. I mean, things get thrown around, smashed and bashed and crashed into, and if it isn't packed right, it's going to break no matter what it is. So, it's not, some of it's Goodwill's fault for not packing as good as they should have in the first place, but most of it is FedEx, UPS, the post office, whoever shipping it, just mishandling things bad. Okay, there's a couple of these in here that I wanted to show you. These are hammered hinge top, the skillet lid, hinge top hammered Griswold skillets. And, I've got the Lodge one there that's nearly identical to it. But there's a big, huge difference in pricing. Most of the ones I've seen of the Griswold have a hinged lid, a regular lid with a hinge on it. But this one has an actual skillet lid on it. Most of the Lodge ones I've seen have the skillet lid instead of the hinged lid, like the Griswold. But the one with the double skillet, this one sold for $651. It's a number 8, I believe. Let me double check here. I think they were all number 8s. It's a small logo. Doesn't really say what size, but I'm pretty sure that's number 8. But anyway, that one went for $650. And the hinged, the regular lid went for 302. And I think the regular, that's a small logo too, number 8. And this one went for 302, which is about what they go for. I'm not really sure if the hinged, the skillet lid is enough rarer than the regular lid to justify $651. But like I said, the ones, pretty much all of the Griswold ones I've seen had a lid instead of a skillet lid. So that's just something kind of interesting. And a couple of Griswold Dutch ovens that went for pretty good money. This one here, that's a number 10. That went for $300. And it's got this really cool handle on it. That's for hanging over a campfire or hanging over a crane on a fireplace. I don't know if that's a factory option. I would have to dig through some of the old catalogs, and I don't have the old catalogs, but it may have been a factory option. And if you look good, you can see that this is tapered towards the ends. It's really well made. It might have been taken off a different kettle of some kind and, attached to that. Or it may have been a factory, like I said, a factory option. I don't really know, but I've never seen one like that before. It's a number 10, so they usually go for pretty good money. Number 10 is a large logo. Pretty decent shape, a little rust on the bottom, a little rust inside, but overall it's pretty good shape. So that's not really a surprising price for that. Let me get back up here. Closed items. So what was that? 302, I think that was 291. $300. It's not all that surprising for a number 10. But this is a number 6. Now, number 6 and number 7 Dutch ovens are pretty scarce. You'll see number 7s once in a great while, but you hardly ever see number 6. This went for $880. It would have been really nice if they would have taken the tape off to see if it came with a trivet or not. I could definitely see it going for $800 if it had a trivet, but it doesn't say in the description if it does, and they got the goddamn lid taped on it, so they never bothered to show that. And they don't show the bottom of it. But a number 6, number 6, like I said, is pretty rare. You very, very seldom see them. Have I ever seasoned with hog lard? Yeah, I have. One thing about lard is if the pan sits for a long time, if you have it hanging on your wall for 6-8 months, it tends to get kind of a white color to it. It goes away as soon as you heat it up, but it'll come back again after it cools down and sits for a couple of months again. And it's harmless. It doesn't hurt anything. But yeah, I have used lard on skillets. It works pretty good. Let's see here. Yeah, $880 for that. I don't know if that's really a good price for that or not, because they are pretty rare, and something like that. You can definitely get a bidding war going on something like that, because you just don't see them very often. Now, what was that? Oh, I was going to bid on that tonight. Screwing around here and missed it. This was a wafer iron. Let me show you this real quick. I was thinking about getting it. It's not really that big of a deal. Luckenjeser, probably a Finnish or Swedish made one. Number 8, and you see the inside. That's for making, little wafers. Finex cast iron is more like auto parts cast iron, different from the cast iron cookware we know. Yeah, it's a lot of different. There's a lot of different alloys of cast iron. So what they decide to use is kind of hard to say. But this thing only went for $12 plus whatever it costs to ship it to you. Kind of a slick little deal. Hopefully somebody will be happy for it. This is kind of cute. For $37.99, you could have got yourself an infestation of cast iron vermin. 6 little cast iron mice. Actually, 3 pair, because I think there's 2 of each style. Different poses for them. It's kind of neat. For $40, you could definitely have yourself some cast iron mice. Let's see, do through here. That's another Finex. It says 9-inch, but that one, it's really hard to say. That had a bad picture. This is another old Griswold. Went for $777. 1920s green enamel. And yeah, 1920s is when they did that color of enamel. There was a couple of different phases of the enamel Griswold. And this was the color that they used, one of the colors they used back in the 1920s. It's a number 10 with a lid, which definitely kicks the price up. Whether it's $777 worth of rarity, I don't really know. Number 10, large logo. You see there's a fair bit of wear on the bottom of it. Normally, the lid is really nice. Most of that looks like it's just crud. That probably clean right off. Maybe a little bit of rust, some chipping on the top of the handle, a little bit of rust around the bottom, but that would clean up really nice, I think. But I don't know if it's rare enough that it'd be worth that much, $777. But, something like that would be fairly expensive. Normally, plated or enameled cast iron, unless the coating is really pristine, it tends to actually bring the price down if it's got chipped enamel or worn plating on it. But like I said, I mean, if it's really rare enough, it could be worth that much, even with a bit of damage, but I don't really know. Here, get this back. But I thought that was kind of interesting. I went for that. And I just threw this one in. This is just a basic number 8 large logo Griswold Dutch oven. And that goes for $115. That was a pretty good price on that. Usually they go for a bit more than that, closer to $130, $140 for a large logo with a lid. I just kind of threw that in to compare to the other two, the prices on those. Let me get back here to my filter bacon grease in a mason jar with water. Turns to pure white and super clean. Never had a problem. Huh. Got a cast iron porcupine. That's cool. Yeah, that was pretty impressive price. Can the paint be removed? It's not paint. It's enamel. It's they actually coat it with. You mix up powdered glass, clay, a little bit of water, so it's kind of like paint. And you dip your thing that you're going to enamel it, and then you fire it in the kiln, and the powdered glass melts and fuses to the metal. So it's not really paint, and it doesn't come off. I mean, well, you could sandblast it off, but you would end up sandblasting off most of the value of it. Testing 3M lead test kit. Yeah, you can get if you want to check for lead, you can get test kits at most home improvement stores, hardware stores carry them for testing, testing for lead and stuff like that. Got a nickel plated one. Wonder how much that thing is. Usually, like I said, the plated ones go for the same price or a bit less if there's some wear to the plating than the bare iron. Same thing. But if the plating is absolutely perfect, then it does add to the price. Yeah, right click, open a new tab. It's just the way the Goodwill site works. When you click back, it always takes you to the same page instead of where you left off. Just seen that cherry pitter. Yeah, Yeah, it's pretty cool. I just threw that in because it's kind of it's a neat little thing. That cherry pitter stands up on four legs. You dump your cherries in there. You turn the crank. There's a wheel with a couple ridges on it, and it kind of squeezes the pit out of the cherry. It's not like the ones that cut a little plug out and push the pit out. Kind of mashes the cherry a bit. I've got one. It's not like this. It's meant to clamp onto a counter. Yeah, there you can see the wheel, and it drops the pits out. One drops the pits out here, and the cherries fall out the bottom. Usually, kind of tears them in half or thirds, kind of squishes them up a little bit, but they are pretty useful little things. I use mine for plums. What'd that sell for? Wasn't a whole lot, I think. $30. Yeah, it's definitely worthwhile. This I wanted to show you. We were complaining about not getting enough information with this. There's only a few pictures of this. This is a Vollrath skillet with a lid, but that is, I'm almost 100% positive that is not a Vollrath lid. It looks like it could be a BSR. There's a Chinese brand called Techsport that looks like that. The BSR tends to have a bit more of a dome to it, and the Techsport are a little flatter looking, but you can't really tell one way or the other from the picture. But that might be a BSR, might be a Chinese one, but they never show you the inside of the lid. Which a lot of times they don't, which drives you nuts because that's usually one of the big ways that you can identify what kind of a lid it is. But that's a nice marked Vollrath number 8. And the skillet itself looks fairly decent. And the price on it wasn't too far out of line for a skillet with a lid. Usually a Vollrath, the prices are kind of all over on those. It depends on who wants it that day. But a number 8 marked Vollrath usually goes around 75. I've seen them up around 90, 95 sometimes. But the lid, that's probably, if it's a Chinese lid, it's maybe $20 lid. If it's a BSR, it'd go for a bit more, probably go for 35, 30, 35. But it doesn't quite add up to $151 for the pair. Where if that would have been a Vollrath lid, and you could tell for sure that it was, 151 would have been a good price for it. So somebody might end up getting disappointed on that. This thing here is really cool. I've had this saved up for a few months. It's a broiler pan made by the Morgan Company, Kalamazoo, Michigan. And I kind of think it's actually meant to go the other way around. The way it's sitting here is actually upside down. I think what you would do with this is you would have this part sitting over the eye of your wood stove, and the skillet would actually act as a lid. In that Majestic stove catalog I have, they have a great big broiler waffle iron thing that's meant to sit over two eyes of the stove. It has a waffle iron, big long oval waffle iron, and it also has a broiler grill for doing steaks on it. But it also had a tin cover that you would cover the whole thing with when you were broiling, so that it would draw the smoke from the steak out through the stove. And I think that's what this was meant to do. You would put this on, flip it over the other way around. You put the broiler over the eye, and then you could use that skillet either as a skillet or as a cover. And you can see, I don't know if I got a better picture of it. This right here, there were a lot of smokeless skillets made. There's a Griswold one, in the mostly in the 1890s. There was a kind of a big patent thing. This is a vent that went all the way through, and the draft from the stove would pull air down through that, and it would act like a like a hood over your stove, and it would draw the smoke down that hole by the from the draft of the stove. So I kind of think that's what this was meant to be. This was actually meant to be the cover for it. Meant to cover that. And there's the back of it, the Morgan Manufacturing Company. I think they got one closer picture. There you go. Patented and manufactured, Morgan Manufacturing, Kalamazoo, Michigan. And that's pretty slick. And went for a good price. I forget what that sold for. But yeah, that vent hole was meant to draw the smoke away from your meat. And you could turn around and use this part for a skillet when you weren't using the broiler. But I think that was meant to be a lid when you were using the roaster instead of the other way around, like they got it stacked there. That went for $182. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to say what something like that's really worth because that's the only one I've ever seen quite like that. And if I would have had $200 at the time, yeah, I would have paid for that because that's one of those really cool things that you never see things like that. So how much is it really worth paying for? Because you're probably never going to see one again. One other thing, this one here, this is still for sale right now. The bid is up to $166. I just want to show you these quick. Here's another set of rosette irons. And these are the two deep ones. There's a round one and a heart-shaped one. And they're about 2 inches deep. Where the you can see the rosette irons I used last week were maybe 3/4 of an inch. And these are up to $41 right now. But it's the same box, a little different insert in it. And they made one other set that had these two plus the two that I have, plus the patty bowl all in one box. Wonder if you could find that Morgan patent. Might show how it was intended to be used. Yeah, I don't think it had a patent number on it. Or I didn't see one. But let me go back here quick and take a look. I don't think there was a patent number. But you probably could search for it. Let me see here. A number or date would be pretty handy. If you can see it. See, it's about 3 inches deep. Kalamazoo, patented and manufactured. Yeah, I don't really see any other, don't see a patent date or a patent number on it. But you could probably search it. It'd be a lot more difficult without, a date and a number. But anyhow, this pan here, Griswold number 9 iron self-basting skillet. That's definitely a Griswold lid. But that ain't a Griswold skillet. Griswolds didn't have a raised number like that. Or at least there's none that I'm aware of. It could be an early Lodge, a no notch or a 1-notch Lodge, with the ARC logo. It could be that. It could be an initial skillet. I mean, it looks pretty similar to that. That's definitely a Griswold lid because it says Griswold on it. So there's no doubt about that. But yeah, that's not a Griswold skillet. And you can't tell for sure what it is just by that number. Like I said, it could be an initial skillet. It could be an early Lodge. So, it's hard to say. And they don't show you a picture of the bottom of it. And even worse, they got it sitting on this soft cloth background, so you can't really see the edge. It looks like it's a little bit rounded. And let me pop this up. This is the last one I'm going to show. So far, this is up to, what's that, up to 161, 66. And it doesn't close until tomorrow, so it'll probably go a bit higher by then. But let me close myself out of this. It doesn't really show the with that soft stuff underneath it. You can't see if it has a rounded edge like this. This is you see that's got a raised number on it. This is an old ARC logo Lodge. It could be one of these. This is number 8 and that's number 9. But you can't really tell what shape the edge of the pan is, if it's really rounded or if it's squared off on the bottom. This is that initial skillet again. The 9 kind of looks like that, but 9s look like 9s. Either way, somebody's probably going to be pissed if they don't know that Griswolds didn't have raised numbers like that. If it's an old Lodge with a Griswold lid, a number 9 Griswold skillet lid like that by itself, it's not uncommon to see them sell for $125, $135. So the price ain't really too bad so far, unless it really goes wild. But some things like that can really drive you nuts on that Goodwill website, where they don't quite give you enough information to really know what you're doing. Either way, an old Lodge or a initial skillet, if it goes for under $200 or under, you still come out ahead. I mean, that's pretty good price for that sort of a combination. But it could be something else. I mean, who knows what it is? And the lid's a Griswold, but the pan definitely isn't. So if you're expecting to get a match set of a Griswold skillet and lid, you're going to be kind of upset when you get a pan that isn't. But anyhow, that was the show for this week. Back to that Morgan pan. I think that hole might be the draft door when you put the coals in the pan. Not really. I've seen skillets like that. I mean, Griswold did make one. It was somebody else's patent, but it was made by Griswold. And there's a couple of different variations of it. They call it a smokeless skillet. And what it is, you would take the lid off your stove and put the skillet over the hole, and the draft from the stove would draw down through that hole, and it'd create a downdraft, and it would basically vacuum the smoke away from the pan. And I kind of think that's what you're supposed to do with that skillet. You'd use that for a lid over the top of the broiler when you're using it for a broiler, and then turn around and use it for a skillet later on when you weren't using it for a broiler. It's kind of a combo cooker type of thing. But that's my guess. I'm not exactly positive, but I would think that was probably more how you'd use it, rather than putting coals in the pan and using it that way. Is there significance to a deep rosette versus a shallow? The deeper ones were more meant to be used for like a taco bowl. You ever get a taco salad in a taco shell bowl? It was the same sort of thing. You'd make a little cup out of them, and you would fill them with whatever you wanted to fill them with. Where the rosettes were more just to be eaten, sprinkle a little powdered sugar on them and eat them just on their own. Gator pepperettes. Yeah, gator's one of the few things we don't have around here, so don't know a whole lot about cooking gators. Definitely rounded. That's what the guy who knows about casta told him to put that there. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, it's tough hard to tell from the picture on that. I mean, it could be, it does kind of look rounded, but you can't really say positively one way or the other. I mean, it would be nice if it was an old Lodge. I mean, you'd definitely be getting your money's worth out of it, but you wouldn't be getting what you thought it would, just going by the description. Is Goodwill good about returns? Yeah, they've always been, pretty good. I've never had any problem with them. A lot of times, some of the stuff they just said, keep it, don't bother sending it back. We'll refund you. Send them a picture of it where it had broke. Send them pictures. Document everything, and they're pretty good about the returns. Let's see here. Your dad was 7'2". You're 6'9". Yeah, my wife's father, he was the runt of the litter. He was only 6'3". His brothers are all 6'9", 6'10". Looked like the guys just got off the boat to raid your village. But anyhow, that's our show for this week. I got my schedule sitting right here. I think I'm going to have a show next week. Let me double check here to make sure before I say one way or the other. Let's see here where. Let me find myself first. Okay, there's here next Tuesday. Yeah, I will have a show next week. My schedule gets a little weird into February. So let me see where I'm at. Next week, the week after. Yeah, the next couple of weeks look pretty good. After that, we'll have to kind of play it by ear. But we should have a show next week, probably even the week after. And we'll do something then too, like we always do. By then we might find some more cool stuff, find some other neat things. And like I said, always look around at the stuff on auction sites. It's kind of nice to know, there's a lot of stuff I'll look at just to kind of keep track of what the prices are doing on things. You can get a pretty good idea usually. I mean, sometimes things will run high, sometimes they'll get them low, but you can get at least an idea of what things are selling for. So if you do come across something in an antique shop or a Goodwill or something like that, you got some rough idea what you're going to have to pay for it. But anyhow, I'll see you guys next week. Hope you enjoyed the show. One last quick look here at the comments, see if there's anything I really lost. Let's see. And thank you much. You're welcome. Night all. Any last second questions here? Next Tuesday it is. Okay. I'll see you guys next Tuesday, and like, subscribe, and all that sort of stuff, and I'll see you then. Bye.